Good evening, dear attendees. So while we are waiting for everyone to join, let me quickly remind you about several things. One of them is that this webinar is a part of LPA Career Initiative, which is aimed at helping people to find jobs in private equity in Luxembourg. And on our official website, in the career section, you can submit your CV, which we will later share with our members who are always looking for good, talented professionals. And in the same career section, you can find some open vacancies that our members share with us. Today, we host two guests from PwC. One of them is Vincent Lebrun, who's the tax leader and the alternative industry leader. Vincent has 24 years of experience in tax in Luxembourg. And he's joined by Noemi Biro, who is a senior HR professional from PwC. Vincent, Noemi, good evening, and thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Yes, this weather always feels like evening. Yes, good evening.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Natalia, and thanks for organizing this event.
Yeah, so before I start with my questions, I would like to remind all the attendees that we make this webinar for you. We are here to answer your questions, so please use the Q&A section to leave your questions there, and we will make sure that we will answer all of them at the end of the webinar. So Vincent, I will start with you. And I would like maybe to start with your background, and maybe you can share how you became a part of PwC and how you, well, I should say, succeeded in this work.
Well, let's try to make a long story short. I got 50 this year, so I'm not that young anymore. But still in a good shape. I finished my law degree in Belgium in '95, went after for a master in tax at the Solvay Business School, which I finished in '97. And I joined in '97 a Luxembourg bank, where I joined the legal and tax department of a major Luxembourg bank. And while working over there, I was involved on the financing of a very large transaction where PwC Luxembourg was advising on the tax side. And so that's where how I got into connection with PwC. And after this transaction, they called me and they asked me whether I wanted to join the tax department at PwC. And I accepted right away, despite that it was really a challenge, because when you work with a bank, let's say your tax expertise is clearly not as good as the one that you can actually acquire within a Big Four or like with PwC. So I joined actually in in October '99 PwC as a junior tax advisor. It was indeed very challenging because I would still remember the first day when I joined. I got called into the tax leader office, who was in charge of the tax department at that time, René Belchens. And he put me on a transaction. He explained me the transactions. And when I left his office, I was totally lost. So I remember that I didn't catch anything about the steps because he was moving from step 4 to step 7 back to step 1 and so on. And so when I left his office, my first experience was a little bit medicated because I was somewhat lost. But hopefully for me, there were other people, let's say senior advisor, managers, so I went to them, visit them on the very first day saying, okay, well, I need to get your help because, well, I just had a meeting with the tax leader and I'm not sure whether I catched everything. And hopefully they helped me to understand, let's say, the global picture, what's going on this specific transaction. And finally, I was able to come back to my tax leader back at that time with let's say a proper input or deliverable. But my first experience at PwC was quite let's say amazing, in the sense that I never expected to be called on the first day in the tax leader office, who was clearly a senior tax partner back at that time, to get let's say asked to jump straight away into a live transaction, and to be able to cope with it. So yeah, I will ever remember that first day, but then afterwards, let's say it went extremely well. I think back in 2008, I've been made partner. That's also in 2008 when I took over the leadership for private equity industry, which I have led until 2 years ago, where we at PwC Luxembourg, we decided actually to merge our 3 alternative industries, which are private equity, real estate, and hedge fund, into one large, let's say, cross-competency let's say industry within the firm. And I have taken the lead of this large industry. So 2 years ago, today that represents around 800 people working in tax, audit, and advisory, with a specific focus on alternative, including let's say private equity. And today, actually, this industry is actually the largest industry in terms of turnover at PwC. Not in terms of number of people working for it. So I said we are around 800 people, but clearly it's the industry where we see the potential for growth in the future, compared to the other, let's say, traditional, let's say, industries that you might see within, let's say, Big Four, generally speaking, which is asset wealth management, banking, operating companies, or insurance companies. So clearly alternative and so private equity are, I would say, the 3 key industries driving, let's say, the success of PwC today.
Okay, and Vincent, what do you think? What qualities and what skills do you think helped you to climb up the ladder in PwC? And what do you think? Like, what you yourself are looking for when you are choosing people for your team?
Well, if I look at myself first, as I said, it was a challenge for me, because it was quite impressive to join such a large tax team at PwC back at that time. Of course, PwC or any Big Fours are involved on the largest and the most complex transactions that we can cross, let's say, around the world, and that requires, of course, a certain level of knowledge that you don't really have when you start a career at PwC or within a Big Four, generally speaking. So I think one of the main qualities that I would see is that you need to be curious. You need to be keen and ready to learn, and you will learn on a daily basis. Even today, after more than 20 years in the business, I'm still learning, because things are changing. The environment is changing, the laws are changing, the regulatory environment is changing, our clients are changing, and so you need to be able to adapt, to stay agile. But I would say curiosity is one of the key assets, because when you join let's say, Big Four or PwC, you get a heavy training throughout your career path, either local trainings given by PwC Luxembourg or through PwC network around the world. Some of us are also joining external, let's say, trainings. But I think if you are someone who is curious, who wants to stay up to date about what's going on, this is the best learning curve that you can actually find, by staying curious, to be able, let's say, to change, to adapt, to listen what, let's say, your clients or your colleagues are saying or seeing on the market, to actually be able at any point in time to adapt your advice to your clients, and that allows you to stay on the top and to provide the level of comfort with respect to the advice you give to clients. Because at the end, that's the role of a Big Four. The role of the Big Four is to help clients, to give advice. But at the end, what the clients are expecting from you is actually a level of trust. They are looking for trust or a level of comfort in order to proceed with a reorganization, with a transaction. And that's actually the role of a Big Four. Because if you look at what our colleagues are doing on the audit side, they provide comfort to the market by reviewing the accounts of a company, to sign them off, because it's important that, let's say, any stakeholders in the market have a fair view about what's going on with an enterprise, with a company. Same in tax, actually. Let's say when you have private equity fund manager going for transactions, since they do transaction a little bit all around the world, let's say the tax questions coming up on the specific transactions are always totally different. And if you add to that the fact that the tax laws are changing almost every year, again, it means that you need to stay curious, be able to adapt, cope with the changes, because that will at the end drive the quality of your advice. I think another quality that you need is ready. You need to be ready to give your best. This means be able to work hard, but at the same time, you need to ensure that you have a proper work-life balance, because each human being has its own limits. And let's not forget that within a Big Four, it's all about brains. The services that we are rendering comes from our brains. So if you want to have a suitable, proper, and energetic, let's say, brain, you need to be able to rest, to have, let's say, proper holidays. So you need to be able to, let's say, to organize yourself in order to be always somewhere in a very good shape. I think motivation is key, and be a team player. Because, well, as I said at the very beginning, if my colleagues back at the time when I started with PwC were not around me, or not, let's say, really willing to help me, I'm not sure that I would be around today. I don't think I would have had the same career path that I had. So team working is important. Let's say to have a collective mindset, I would say, in order to help others, to help your group to perform better, in order to always be at the top, and more you are, let's say, ready to help anyone joining or helping someone who is in troubles on a specific file or job or whatever, at the end, that will help the firm, so PwC, to deliver the level of quality that we expect to deliver, but also the level of quality that our clients are looking for. And last but not least, I would say what is important is you need to know what you want to do. And you need, once you have been able to determine what you want to do, what you want to achieve, what is the, let's say, the array of expertise where you want to develop, you need actually to love what you do. Well, when I finished my law degrees, I was extremely interested by tax. I don't know why, because my tax exposure when doing my law degree was extremely low, but it was a center of interest for me. This is why I went for a master in tax. And then it was very clear to me that my career would be done in tax. And if you love your job, if you like what you do, then you, let's say, one may say that you wake up every morning in a good shape. You're happy to go to the office and do your job. So that's all about, let's say, liking what you do and staying, let's say, highly motivated.
Vincent, I have two quick questions for you. So one is work-life balance. There are many people who work for Big Fours or worked for Big Four companies, and they always say that, you know, it's and in private equity in general, everyone says that it's a very demanding job, and like, what's your real life work balance? Like, do you manage it, especially at your level?
The question is not whether PwC is demanding or whether it is actually not our clients who are demanding. And for sure, let's say I did almost my entire career in private equity. And I'm actually a more private equity guy than real estate or hedge fund, even if I'm advising, let's say, outside, let's say, private equity. But private equity clients, fund managers, are by definition extremely demanding. And one of the reasons why they are demanding is, well, first, they need to provide return to their investors. Otherwise, if they can't, then that will impact their performance and probably, let's say, their level of success in the future. But let's not forget that private equity, it's all about transactions. And transactions are today and nowadays going extremely fast. When there is a deal available on the market, there are several bidders, and a PE house, if a PE house is interested in that specific transaction, will do all its best to win the offer. But the time frame to file an offer and to come up with a proper structure to organize the transaction, to organize the acquisition, including all the stakeholders like the banks and so on, that is extremely demanding, just from a timing perspective. And I would say, well, back at the early stage, let's say back into the beginning of 2000s and so on, the date when we started to work on a transaction until closing of a transaction was around, let's say, 4 to 6 months. Nowadays, we close transaction of multi-billions transaction within a week or 2 weeks. So, well, private equity is demanding. So by definition, working for a big four and in private equity is demanding, I would say. But somewhere clearly, it's also a question of, let's say, values. And one of the values, key values that we have at PwC is to ensure that we provide quality. We don't provide low quality. We don't want to provide low quality because otherwise at some point in time, this can impact your reputation. And reputation for a big four is extremely important. It's actually key. And so we will ever do anything what is possible in-house in terms of recruitment or in terms of training, and training through courses or training on the spot, to make sure that our people are always at the highest level, because actually everything becomes even more complex. I would say doing transactions in private equity today is extremely complex compared to 10 or 15 years ago. I would not say that it was easy 10 or 15 years ago, but today with all the changes that you see in the tax, regulatory, and the financial landscape, makes things even harder compared to the past.
Okay. And yes, and one more quick question. So you said that it's important, it's important to constantly learn, and that you constantly, keep on learning yourself. My question is that I meet a lot of people who think, okay, I do this thing, I'm interested in this thing, and let's say I'm not interested in politics, I'm not interested in art, I just do this. How important do you think is the general, let's say, erudition, the knowledge and the understanding of other sectors and fields as well? Do you think it affects your work, or you can be in your bubble and just, be aware of financial things? And
I would say when you start a career within the big four, except if you know before starting in which industry you want to work, we will, let's say, try to give those people an exposure to a maximum of industries or type of jobs. Of course, that's from an industry perspective. Now, when you look at the competency point of view, well, either you start in audit, or you start in tax, or you start in advisory. And sometimes you see some people are moving from audit to tax. I have never seen someone moving from tax to audit, but we have seen some people moving from tax to advisory. But let's say we give at least the opportunity to everyone to find its own way, its center of interest. And let's say if that's what actually happened to me, I was, let's say, back at the very beginning in 2000, there was only a very few people at PwC doing private equity. And I was actually a bit the only one being extremely interested about private equity, not because I was believing that private equity could become and play a much more important role for the firm and for Luxembourg. But let's say I was at the very early stage when private equity became, let's say, somewhere started in at PwC and in Luxembourg. But at least I found my way, and I think it's important to give that chance to the other ones. Because again, as I said, you need to love what you want to do. Because if you don't love or if you don't like your job, then it's extremely hard to stay curious, to learn by yourself, to be aware about what's going on the market, what your competitors are doing. So you need to stay curious. And that's why I think we give that flexibility, that level of freedom to our people. And somewhere it's naturally speaking that they get at some point in time specialized into a more specific domain. Of course, there are some people in-house who are more generalist, but you will see more specialized people because it's extremely difficult to, let's say, to give advice on VAT if you are not a specialized VAT person. I can provide high-level VAT advice, but I'm not, let's say, the VAT specialist. But I can come up with let's say, the broad picture. I can advise on more or less on everything, but at some point in time, I need to bring my team. I need to bring my team of specialists on specific subjects, because as I said, things are getting more and more complex. Nowadays, when we look at a transaction or at a fund structuring project for a private equity fund manager, you might see a quite large team at PwC working on the same job, actually. And I think that's also something that is extremely, let's say, interesting, because you are working next to those people, so you are learning from those people. They are there to help you. And at the end, the main goal of our teams is actually to make it true, to make the transaction happen for the client without any bug, without any issues, without forgetting anything, because often the devil is in the details, as we said. When you do something wrong in tax, well, the cost and the risk of a tax exposure can be extremely high. So you need to never work alone, work as a team, make sure that you bring the right people around you, make sure that you get the expert advice, let's say, that is available in-house in order to be able to deliver, let's say, a high quality service or a high quality product, as I mentioned before.
Thank you, Vincent. Noemi.
Can I, if you don't mind, I
Yes.
also would like to add something what Vincent said, because I think it's also an interesting kind of pilot or exposure we want to launch around autumn, which is definitely reflects to the cross-industry or cross-loss, as we call the line of service career path. As you said, that some of the people really know that they want to do audit and that's it, or tax or advisory. But also we know that some of the young talents, they know that they would like to do something around all of this, but they don't know which is really fit to them the best. But as per quality, education, and interest, they would kind of fit almost all of the service lines. So why we are not giving them the chance to explore and then make the decision? And therefore, we haven't had any structured industry rotation program before, but we would like to try out to launch it to this autumn. And most probably the pilot is going to be an alternatives industry because of anyway the needs there, and also that it's just kind of obvious to try there. So that would mean that people who join in junior positions, they would have a kind of rotation cross assurance, audit, advisory and tax in the industry, within the industry. So I think that's also, again, giving the choice to people to find their best way to perform, as also was mentioned by Vincent. I think it was interesting to highlight.
Yeah.
Thank you, Noemi. We have several questions for you already, but and we will definitely answer all of them. I would like to first go through some recruitment processes that you have inside PwC, and like how the recruitment process is usually done. Do you have the digital, like do you review the CVs digitally first and then you pass it to people? Like what's the general procedure?
Yes, no bots and robots yet. So it's definitely all human beings at the moment who are screening the CVs. It's always the recruiter, so the applications coming through our system. So it's the applicant tracking system after people find the jobs on our career website. The jobs are either referring to a very specific opportunity, so a specific grade, and it's a specific business unit. Or, for example, in this case, we have talent pool advertisements where people are going to say, okay, I'm generally interested in any job opportunities coming up in the future in alternatives industry. So I'm going to upload my CV. And also they know and they are aware that we can contact them when it comes to suitable opportunities. So this is the kind of two-way, a concrete position or something where people provide their profiles. Then the recruiter who is supporting the specific service line, they're reviewing the CVs, and then there is usually a phone screen. So there's a discussion. Again, it's a different process for very experienced candidates and junior candidates, but it's also the recruiters try to find out some of the, so to say, as we call the basics. So if it's there is a language requirement, then the language is there. What is the motivation? If the people really want to apply for this position, or it was just a mistake. Sometimes it's even can happen, but it's really important that we kind of check out this at the very beginning. What is actually the interest for the position, etc. Once these checks are done, then it's usually, I'm going to say, the very kind of standard process, 2 rounds, one with HR, which is a competency-based interview. So we are trying to figure it out, for example, as mentioned by also Vincent, on curiosity, so learning agility, how people learn, what is usually the coping mechanism, what they use when they are getting into the new situation, how they cope with resilience, flexibility, etc. Seems like kind of easy to answer, not that easy to answer, and a good recruiter really building the case around getting more of the essence of the human reaction, not what could be look like as a good answer. And then once the recruiter kind of did this soft skill assessment, then there is a technical interview, which is always from business representatives. Again, is depending on positions. In some cases, the business representatives are using business cases. So they want some of the people on the interview kind of simulate a case or make a pitch, or which is really related to the experience they need to cover when they join. If it's more of juniors, you can ask that what is the technical questions can be asked from the juniors. But again, it's really about their studies, how they connecting the dots with what they learned and what does it mean for our services. And then any of these interviews, of course, related to languages, it can be in English, French, and German, or German. And then in cases when it was the pre-COVID era, we had also group assessment days, again, for juniors, when it was more of a physical day with group assessments, team exercises. But again, it was in a different times. So this is kind of a general process, and once people are selected, then the recruiters are sharing offer details and also further information for onboarding.
Okay, perfect. And I have a question here, and I think it's just it's related to what we just spoke about. So maybe let's answer it right now. It's question from Henry. So Henry says, hello, I'm Henry from Sacred Heart University, Luxembourg. I have a strong background in PE, but can't apply for a private equity job because it's written,
English and German?
English and German, yes. I would like to know, since you said everything is about learning, if PwC could consider the language, yeah, so probably another language, because I know if someone really likes a job, he would make sure to be
learning to continue working.
Always trying to learn to continue working. Yes, sorry, I just
yes. I know it's not easy.
Yeah, so would you consider, like, if a person doesn't speak the languages which are in the requirement, would you consider someone?
I think it's a very difficult question, and I can be very straightforward in the answer, as from my experience as a recruiter for 15 years. If the job requires a specific level of English or French or German, and it's really because of client work, there is, for example, some of the consideration or flexibility we cannot take, because it means that we're looking for skills where we believe, and I again gonna say, can learn. But if somebody has a level which is far from what we expect on language, it's not something which we believe people can learn like from one day to another. But again, if it's about, yes, I kind of use some digital tools, yes, I know how to visualize data on dashboard, but it was really just for kind of a thesis work I did for uni. I know how was it, and I think I can pick it up. That's different. So I think that it's more of the differentiation of the skills. On language, if it's hard requirement, it's a requirement.
Thank you, Noemi. And there is another question which actually corresponds to what I wanted to ask, and I know this is something that a lot of people are interested in. Are there opportunities open to overseas candidates as well? So it's always that people would like to know if you hire only from European Union or from the Great Region, or you are open to hire candidates from other countries as well.
Yes, we are open to, I mean, really any talents who is suitable and fit for the requirements we are looking for. So it means that if it means that it requires sponsoring a visa for us, where we can count on, I don't know, the timeline, which is going to be maybe a bit longer for the time to fill than with, for example, a local candidate, then we make it into consideration. And if we believe that this is the right candidate with the background and the skills we're looking for, it's no issue for us that the person is not in Europe or it's not part of the European Union. We have a global mobility team, 5 or 6 people at the moment, 2 people dedicatedly focusing on working with the authorities and all of these moves overseas. So as per practice, it's not something unusual for us.
No, I agree. And Noemi, maybe we should also mention that, well, let's not forget that Luxembourg market is a very small one compared to other large, let's say, EU member states. So a firm like ours has no choice actually to recruit heavily outside the borders, I mean, of Luxembourg, but also outside of the European borders. I don't remember, but I think we have 74, 75 different nationalities within the firm.
Correct.
When I just look at my tax group, alternative tax consulting group, we are 56 people, and I think we have 27 or 28 different nationalities. So by definition, larger than Europe. So clearly, yeah, we are looking for, let's say, for any talents ready to join Luxembourg and ready to have as a junior or as a experienced person to join our firms. And maybe just to give you a little bit more flavor about what level of recruitments that we are considering. So I presented not later than last week the business plan, so the budget for alternative for the next 2 years to the board of the firm. we will look to recruit around 100, between 100 and 120 people across the different competencies at any levels of experience. So from juniors to seniors and to, let's say, highly experienced persons, because we are facing an important growth of let's say, turnover and new clients. Luxembourg is still, let's say, very attractive for alternative fund managers. We need to cope with that growth, and therefore we need to hire a large number of people if we want to continue to serve as usual our clients, but again, by, let's say, making sure and ensuring that we deliver above all, let's say, quality and nothing else.
And Noemi, I think one more question that's usually of interest is: do you have internships, and how
Yes.
how is this process work?
We have really a lot of open positions, and internship. It's also the duration and the seasonality is very different. For assurance audit department, we have always the same kind of sequence or seasonality. That usually we hire a bigger group of interns starting in October and a bigger group of interns starting in January, and also the same for tax. Although tax also hiring interns kind of across the year. So it's also kind of fulfilling incoming and ad hoc demands. And for advisory, it's again more of across the year, and it's following the business needs. So it's not having specific entry dates. It's again across the year.
Okay, and how does the general career path look like at PwC? Like, what are maybe the opportunities to move between different departments, and to start in one place and maybe continue in another?
Yeah, I think that's also the important part. I think that one is that the brand is well known, and I think that people kind of associate the brand with a fruitful career where people can grow. But it's always the interest that what it really means for me, the growth and the development. So as per career, it's, as we know, the ladder is associate, senior associate. Again, I'm going to give the simple one, then manager, senior manager, director, and partner. What is already a kind of, I think, interesting growth is that as you go up on the ladder, that you start managing people, and also for senior associates, this type of mentoring and being responsible for a team is coming into play very soon in their career. So I think this giving a kind of maturity and in advance to people starting in Big Four, because these kind of responsibility to mentor juniors, to understand and allocate their job, or helping the teams to work together, it's not getting in careers that soon. So I think that's a very interesting dimension of these roles here. Also, when it comes to trainings, yes, all of the trainings which is required for you to perform your job, it's there, but it's more than that. It's also linked to our kind of initiative, which is called digital upskilling. It's not only about how you can use better Excel or how you can use the general tools, but it's really understanding the data we have in whatever services we work, how we can represent the data better to our clients, what we can read from that. So I think it's really an upgrading ourselves to be really the distinctive advisors on the numbers and also the data we are anyway dealing with. And then it really comes to a very different added value to our clients, which is very well perceived. But again, our people, for example, some of them who joined 10 years ago, they were not like selected to do that. They didn't know that. So the big mission here is that we need to upskill our people, and PwC invest a lot of time and actually money and resources to upskill those individuals, and it's a kind of a bigger group of people to be the kind of digital promoters or accelerators of the firm. So I think that's also, if you just can think about it, that maybe one time I leave, I'm maybe not going to getting into partner, and then after 20 years I'm going to leave, but the package and what you really learned that's I think going to be with you for your whole career. And the last but not least is, as we call it, the individual and differentiated development opportunities. So we also just launched our high potential program, which means that people who have like a kind of potential in the company, they have an accelerated career path and they get exposure to very different projects in firm level. They can be part of discussions on the highest level with our CLT, so the country leadership team. They can have a chance to sit at the table, for example, even they are seniors, also with industry leaders. So I think that's also a very different experience we provide.
Mm. And if I may just add, I have indeed heard many times that it's almost impossible to make it through to partnership as a partner into a Big Four, and I totally disagree with such a statement. Of course, it's not everyone becomes a partner, that's for sure, but at least the ones who really want to become one day partner, and if this is really their wish and the career path that they want, a Big Four like ours will give you that opportunity. But of course, you're gonna have to work hard. You're gonna have to be excellent. You're gonna have to be, let's say, consistent over many years. Continue to improve yourself. Stay curious, as we mentioned, on an ongoing basis. But nothing will prohibit anyone to make it one day, especially if you are somewhere an entrepreneur, if you are able to build up your own business case, let's say build up a long-term relationship with the clients you are involved for. I think everything is possible. But there is somewhere, to me, a mindset that you need to have in order to make it through is you need to join a firm like ours and say, well, I would make the following statement: don't ask what the firm can do for you, but what you can do for the firm. You need to have this entrepreneurship mindset to develop, let's say, new businesses, and we will give you actually this level of freedom to build up something. So you will get the ability to go into new markets, into new territories, to build up your own team, to, let's say, provide or invent through innovation new level of products or new, let's say, new services. So we will give this level of freedom in order for people to be able to build, let's say, something within the firm. And if you, of course, you can make it, and if you contribute to the, let's say, to the success of the firm, then, let's say, the partnership will be open. So I've heard that too many times on the market, but I totally disagree, because if you really want something in your life, if you dream about something, even if it takes more time than others, if you stay convinced that you can make it one day, and you are patient to a certain extent, then you will make it.
Thank you, Vincent. And we have a question from Alexander. We have two questions from Alexander. So first is how to make your application stand out in a market where each position is targeted to 200 people, applicants.
Yeah, I started to reply in the chat, but I replied in here. I think that I don't have a magic answer, unfortunately. What I can tell is per experience, reading, I don't know how thousands of CVs, that it should be kind of short and concise. So as you kind of putting in yourself of a recruiter's shoes, exactly as you said, when they receive so many applications, then it's kind of, we need to help the recruiter to get it through. And if you see a lot of CVs and you just start focusing on the CV and you're lost in the CV and you feel that you need to take another, I don't know how many minutes to understand which 6 or 7 pages I need to go to get the information, is it a relevant candidate? If you have 200 CVs, I know that the recruiter is going to say, okay, I'm not going to reject this candidate, but I'm going to looking at the other one and then the other one and another one, while I'm really going to catch the CV, the 5 or 6 words which is matching what I am looking for. So I think that the essence and the content should be very easy to read, and if you have like the specific expectations in the job as per the educational background or experience, then it should be highlighted on the CV in really the first kind of 2 spots, because that's the matching point the recruiters are looking for.
Right.
So I don't know if it's helpful or not, but this is usually
what's your perfect size for the CV? How many pages?
Perfect. For a junior 1, for an experienced max 2.
Okay. No, it's important.
But it's hard. I know.
Who write four pages, which are impossible, you know.
But even for 2 page, I think it's not gonna. If it's not really if it's very structured, I think everybody can imagine a CV where you looking at it, it have the space, enough space everywhere that you can connect the dots and you see the flow. I think that's I think what can kind of stand out.
And the second question from Alexander is, when applying for a particular position and you applied, you don't have a positive response, does it add value if you reach out to the recruitment team through the phone or through email? Does it increase the likelihood that you get the position?
It's also a very good question. I think it should reflect on a kind of tenacity and the person has an go for it approach. So for me, I wouldn't get it like, oh, why the people is reading. I didn't get it as somebody disturbing me. I didn't. I would say that it's really an approach that I want to go for it. I really want to get it. Of course, if it happened 5 times, and also the recruiters 5 times saying that, sorry, but we have specific requirements, and based on that, it seems like not a good match, then maybe it can get to somewhere which is not very positive for the future. But I don't think that the reaching out is bad, especially that we have LinkedIn. I know that people are, and of course, if you have this answer, and some of the recruiters from my team hasn't answered and you feel that you disturb them, you need to say that it was Noemi Biro who said that it's okay to reach out. I know that the recruiters are very responsive from this team, but again, the other advice I have is LinkedIn. And I also wanted to say to Matthias that also, and any of you in this webinar, just reach out to me also on LinkedIn, because if we are connected there, and then I can refer to specific people, and also I can say this recruiter is a great person to contact. So I think that that's also building relationships, connecting there. It's a professional network. I think that's also what I would do.
Yeah, but Alexander, I actually have a remark from myself, and I can tell you that just be proactive, be creative, because this approach got me job twice. And the chair I'm sitting in now, I got just like that, and my CV was printed on lavender paper, and they still remember it was printed on lavender paper. So just be creative, whatever gets you to the job of your dreams, just do it. Okay, so then our next question is, yes, thank you for a very interesting presentation. I'm Taya. I work for PwC Advisory in Indonesia as an associate and currently working to complete an MBA course in Mannheim Business School in Germany. My questions are, do you see any special value add that non-European candidates could bring to PwC Luxembourg? Is the first question. And the second one, is there a different way for an ex-PwC to apply for jobs, or should I just apply from the career website?
Let answer the first one. I think that any type of diversity is good. So if it's about different nationalities, people coming from different culture, I think, as also Vincent mentioned, that we are really diverse, and I think that everybody's happy about that. So it really gives teams a very different dynamic. So I just only see the advantage of that. full stop from my side, and also the teams we are working with. And as ex-PwC, as myself was also ex-PwC before I rejoined PwC Luxembourg, I went through on the processes. I put in my application on the website, but I reached out to people within the network. So again, if you can connect me on LinkedIn, then I can happy to have also the conversation with you. And of course, then we're gonna meet the application on the portal, but we have both connections, the formal and informal.
Thank you. And then we have a question from Matthias. Are you currently hiring in TAS and advisory consulting? Is there any point of contact we might reach out to send you CV and share our motivation letter? Thank you.
Well, I mentioned it. So our industry, alternative industry, is looking for between 100 to 120 people, tax, advisory, and audit, and at any level of experience. So I think, Noemi, what is the best way to connect with us? Is it through you, through LinkedIn, through the portal or website?
It's either, yeah, so it's either connecting on LinkedIn with me, and then I can kind of redirect candidates. And also, if you are going to our career website, that we have all the specific jobs listed there. So very specific for advisory or assurance or tax within and for alternatives. But we also have as a job called talent pool for alternative industry. So it means that if you put your application there, then it means that we're collecting all the CVs and the recruiters handling it as a talent pool, and they calling you, asking you about your experience, further discussions, and then we can kind of figure it out that which department would fit the best to the interest. So these are the ways.
Okay, I think we probably answered that question, but just maybe someone missed it. Is it required to have a European passport to work at PwC? And as such, assist with the working visa? Yeah, just maybe to clarify that again.
Yes, and yes, yes, and yes. Like no and yes. I don't know. It was like, so it's not required to have a European passport, and yes, for the suitable candidates, we have to support the visa process.
Thank you, Noemi. So I think we asked all the questions. If by any chance you are late with your question, you still have a chance to put it in the Q&A section. And while we're finishing, Noemi, Vincent, maybe is there something that we missed and you would like to highlight, or something that you like to wrap it up with?
Ladies first, Noemi.
Yeah, I just want a technical request from me that if you reach out to me on LinkedIn and request a connection, which I very much encourage everybody to do, please reflect on the message that it was because of we met on the webinar on this one, so I know that where we started connecting from. And again, if you have any questions, we are very happy to answer, and I'm very happy that we had the chance to answer all of your questions.
Yeah, and on my side, well, first I would like to thank you again, Natalia and the LPR, for giving us this opportunity to share a little bit what's going on at PwC, not only in the industry, let's say private equity, but also let's say from a pure HR perspective. Well, my conclusion is would be to say, well, we look for the best talents. Of course, we are a large firm. Of course, we got a large number of CVs. Sometimes it doesn't work through for some, but if you are the ones who are never giving up, I would tell you, okay, try your second chance or even your third chance, because as Noemi said, if you are determined, motivated, this is one of the key values that we are looking for when hiring people. Again, if you are curious, ready to work hard, not hard because this is the culture of the firm. It's simply if you are interested to work in private equity, by definition, it's harder. And it's much harder, I would say, than many other industries, but this is it. It's a choice of life somewhere, or a choice of career. And I think even if you are not able to make it through, because I don't think it should be the objective of everyone to become one day partner within a Big Four. We also need people at other levels, even with a high number of, let's say, years of experience. And let's say, even if you doesn't make it through for one reason or the other one, whether it's a good one or a bad one, let's say, generally speaking, all people are if they don't stay with us, they join the industry, they join our clients. And it's extremely important for a firm like ours to have people that we know, that we have trained, that we have helped over, let's say, a couple of years, to be at those clients, because it's also a way to connect with them, to stay close. And let's say, to the extent that those people who had a PwC experience had a good one at PwC, those are probably the best ambassadors that we may actually have at clients or at, let's say, around the world. So don't hesitate to apply. We are looking for people, as I said, for new resources at all levels. So don't hesitate.
Thank you, Vincent. Thank you, Noemi. Thank you very much for your time, for all the answers. I would like to remind everyone that we will have one more webinar this season, Career Adventure with Young People. This time they are all in their early 30s or even less than 30 years old, and they're already partners and investors. So it will be a very funny webinar with advices from young to young. So please join. It's on the 10th of June. Thank you very much for your time. If you have ideas, if you have wishes about who you would like to see in this series next, just text us in LinkedIn under our posts with the invitations. Thank you very much. And
okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. See you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.